Trends come and go, but nothing comes back stronger than a 90s trend. So the 90s and early 2000s Y2K
Unprecedented era
is back in style. It's impossible to escape it. It's all over the runways and media. Looking at 2025 fashion shows was like being a time traveler, going back to low-rise jeans, bandana tops, and chokers. Well, it's anyone's guess how this happened and what brought back the 2000s. It's most likely been a combination of things. It's fair to say it started on TikTok, mostly reintroduced by e-girl influencers, which is ironically fitting because the year 2000 marked the start of the new millennium and the new internet era. Just to set the scene a little bit, the year 2000 alone saw the introduction of GPS,
Remain calm. I have trained for this.
camera phones, hybrid cars, and teens were finally able to switch their Walkman CD player for a sleek and tiny iPod. Yes, that was life-changing, to say the least.
This is an excellent rectangle.
And how's this for a flashback? In 2001, we got iTunes and Wikipedia. Something important to understand about 90s and Y2K culture is that everything from fashion to culture was a lot more monolithic. Back in the day, the internet was still a relatively new thing, and in any case, social media didn't exist. If anything, it was early days blogging sites.
Oh, I'm updating my blog.
That started popping up. So culture and style were largely determined by legacy media and celebrity culture. In fact, the internet, like I said, gave rise to early blogging sites, which only fostered celebrity culture and obsession. This was the era of tabloid and celebrity culture, reality TV, and MTV. Gilmore Girls and The Simple Life with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie also came out of the early 2000s, along with shows that marked trends for teens like The OC and The Hills. And of course, the 2000s saw the inception of franchises that would become larger than life, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and The Matrix. According to Vogue, the reemergence of Y2K came from teens and e-girls discovering Y2K fashion on Depop, as well as these same Gen Z influencers then styling these vintage styles, while, quote, lamenting that they were born in the wrong decade. So what's most interesting about this from a marketing and cultural perspective is that unlike most of the nostalgic appeals that we've seen so far that have been pointing to the 90s and 2000s era by tapping into millennials,
childhood nostalgia,
and trying to appeal to those who were around and lived through those eras to create an emotional appeal that obviously then leads to sales. And I talk a lot about this in my Taylor Swift Eras Tour video, so I'll be linking it up here, but we've seen this with movies and TV show remakes, song sampling, styling. We've seen a lot of this nostalgic appeal. But now, what we're seeing with this new wave of retro or vintage 90s and Y2K reemergence, particularly in fashion and imagery themes, is that this is a new movement led by and catered to a younger generation of people who never got to actually live through those decades. So rather than a nostalgic lens, we're seeing it through a romanticization of that era. However, that doesn't mean that these same marketing tools don't still apply to millennials and other older generations as well. And that's the beauty of this as a marketing tool, is that it appeals to virtually every age demographic. Vogue explains, quote, "Our current era is one of turmoil and uncertainty too. Pandemics, divisive elections, climate crisis, and global conflict, which may drive a penchant for nostalgia. It makes sense that the odds in Y2K fashion trends, potentially from a time when you were less stressed about the world, are back in the zeitgeist." And there's lots of examples of Y2K 90s coming back into the spotlight. So let's start off by looking at one that has everyone talking, and that's Coachella. The Coachella lineup for 2025 includes Lady Gaga, Post Malone, Travis Scott, and Green Day. For Green Day in particular, this would be their first time headlining or even performing at the festival, which is crazy because they were huge in the 2000s. And while some probably younger people have said Coachella is starting to feel irrelevant in some of the comments on socials, I think this is making it more relevant than ever. This is such a nostalgic appeal to audiences and an absolutely easy money grab. Honestly, Coachella is too iconic to become irrelevant anytime soon, or at least it definitely hasn't even started to fall off yet. I also think the appeal of Green Day might be a response to an oversaturation of pop girlies in 2024. And Coachella always tries to stay relevant by being a little edgier, a little contrarian, and staying a little ahead of the curve by being different. That's this festival's core vibe. Not quite indie, but definitely a flavor of different, rebel, edgy. That's the culture of this festival in general. That's the fashion that we see at Coachella every year. Coverage of culture and fashion at Coachella has been a staple for years. It literally takes over social media every single season. Celebrities and attendees get judged on how appropriate their ensembles and fashion choices are to the spirit of the festival, because festival goers are very defensive and protective of the environment and culture that's representative of this experience. Let's openly admit it, Coachella has a very culty following. The fashion has to be avant-garde, hippie with maybe a little bit of country, but make it fashion. It's actually quite difficult to describe, but it's effortless, it's too cool to try hard, it's casual, country adjacent, but with a little bit of some flair. And big creators get so much backlash if they don't hit the mark with their outfits and ensembles. Coachella is Gen Z culture. So while I'm a little bit surprised to see Green Day because of the huge Gen Z influence the festival has garnered in recent years, I also think that's part of the reason everyone's talking about it. And I definitely agree with the side of the internet that sees this as a genius move. We've seen brands trying to capture that nostalgic appeal for years now, from Disney with Star Wars and remakes of animated classics to sitcom comebacks like Sex and the City, High School Musical, The Musical, How I Met Your Father, Fuller House. And this has especially grown stronger during the pandemic. It's not like it's not working. It's actually proven to be extremely profitable. And Green Day in particular has that grungy appeal that's also been so iconic post-pandemic. So the fact that it has the internet up in flames and talking nonstop about it is proof that it's working. I guess the final verdict will come out after the festival. Now, moving on to another example of this, Y2K 90s culture coming back into the mainstream is Hailey Bieber's Road. So that's another example of how this strategy has worked perfectly, but there's so much to unpackage there that I'll have to make another dedicated video, and we'll be linking it up here when it's up. And then to balance things out, I think it's important to talk about an example of this Y2K 90s resurgence going terribly wrong with the Paris Hilton Nicole Richie collaboration with Sonic Drinks, when they tried to tap into it girl cool 90s 2000s, and it was a campaign that had all of the elements to be incredibly successful, and they somehow managed to get it wrong. So if you're interested in that, you should check it out. I'll be linking it up here or down below once it's available. If there are any other iconic Y2K 2000s marketing campaigns or collaborations, please let me know. I'd love to look into it more. Now, to close things off, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think Green Day is a good fit for Coachella 2025? Or is it a little too late?